Jack Longo was walking down the sidewalk in his neighborhood on a scorching hot day in Florida, unaware that his life was about to change forever. The sun was blazing, and the asphalt was so hot that it seemed like you could fry an egg on it. Suddenly, he noticed a small creature lying still under the scorching sun. Jack stopped for a closer look, his heart pounding with excitement. It was a tiny being, no bigger than his thumb. The unusual animal barely seemed alive. Its small body barely moved. Its skin was dry and warm to the touch, and its eyes were closed. Jack realized that if he didn't intervene, the little creature would die within minutes. Without hesitation, he carefully picked up the tiny animal and shielded it from the sun with the shade of his hand. He felt a faint heartbeat pulsing against his fingers. Though he had no experience with wild animals, he knew he had to act fast. He rushed home, holding the fragile creature close to his chest, trying not to stumble in his haste. At home, Jack created a temporary nest in a small box with a soft cloth. His hands trembled with excitement as he gently placed the tiny creature inside. He had no idea what to feed such a small animal, so he turned to the internet for help. Jack posted pictures of his discovery on Reddit, hoping for advice. His fingers moved quickly over the keyboard as he described the situation. The responses were mixed. Many users were sure that the animal wouldn't survive, especially in the hands of someone inexperienced. Some even advised Jack to let it die, calling it natural selection. These words hurt him, but Jack refused to give up. He was absolutely convinced that the fate of this tiny creature was now in his hands. Ignoring the pessimistic comments, he started feeding the little one with a special newborn formula using a dropper. Every drop that made it into the tiny mouth felt like a victory. Every 2 hours, day and night, Jack woke up to feed his little companion. The lack of sleep was tough, but he kept going. He named the tiny creature Galeta, which is Spanish for cookie, because it was so small and soft. The first few days were the hardest. Galeta was very weak, and Jack feared she wouldn't survive the night. Every morning, Jack woke up with his heart in his throat, checking if his tiny friend was still breathing. But it turned out that Galeta was surprisingly resilient. With each passing day, she grew stronger and more active. Jack felt a deep bond forming between them. Then, something amazing happened. Galeta started growing fur. Jack was thrilled to see his tiny pet transforming. He could now make out little legs and a long tail, though he still didn't know what kind of animal she was. Every new hair that appeared on Galeta's body felt like a tiny miracle. A month later, Galeta had become a lively little creature. She started exploring Jack's house, climbing anything she could reach. One day, Jack nearly had a heart attack when he couldn't find her, only to discover her peacefully sleeping in the pocket of an old jacket. Jack had completely fallen in love with his unusual pet. He created a special corner in his house for Galeta, filled with climbing platforms. She loved her new play area, spending hours jumping and rolling around. One day, Jack noticed something strange. Galeta was trying to glide, jumping from high places and stretching the skin between her front and back legs. This made Jack wonder what kind of animal his pet really was. He spent an entire night researching different flying mammals, trying to solve the mystery of Galeta. 2 months after they started living together, Jack finally got his answer. A Reddit user, after seeing new photos of adult Galeta, identified her as a flying squirrel, a rare species found in the southern United States. Jack was thrilled by this discovery. He started learning everything he could about flying squirrels and found out that these animals are nocturnal and rarely interact with humans. But Galeta, raised by Jack from birth, didn't behave like a wild animal. She loved sitting on his shoulder, watching the world with her big eyes. Now that Jack knew what Galeta was, he could take better care of her. He changed her diet, adding nuts, seeds and fruits. Galeta especially loved nuts, and Jack often laughed as he watched her struggle to carry a nut almost as big as herself. Jack started wondering if he should release Galeta back into the wild. The thought filled him with mixed emotions. On one hand, he wanted to give her a chance to live naturally, but on the other, he was afraid of losing her. Experts told him that an animal raised by humans probably wouldn't survive on its own. Plus, Galeta had become too attached to Jack, following him everywhere. The decision to keep Galeta wasn't easy, but Jack knew it was the best choice for both of them. He invested all his savings in a large enclosure where Galeta could glide and jump safely. Seeing her happy made every penny worth it. Jack's life changed completely after Galeta's arrival. His unusual pet became a local celebrity, with people coming over to see the extraordinary little creature. Jack even created a social media page for Galeta, sharing her life online. Her number of followers grew daily, and soon Galeta became an internet sensation. She became more active and loved sitting in Jack's shirt pocket, peeking out with curious eyes. Jack often took her to work, where she entertained his co-workers with her acrobatic tricks. One day, Galeta caused chaos in the office by gliding between desks, leaving everyone in shock and amusement. Although Galeta was a nocturnal animal, she adjusted to Jack's schedule. At night, they watched TV together, with Galeta comfortably perched on his shoulder. Jack noticed she was especially interested in nature documentaries. Even Jack's dogs accepted Galeta into the family. At first, he worried they might harm her, but it quickly became clear there was nothing to fear. Galeta loved teasing the dogs, jumping onto their backs and escaping just in time. The dogs, in turn, treated her kindly, as if she were their mischievous little sibling. As time passed, Jack realized he couldn't imagine life without Galeta. The tiny creature he had found half dead on the sidewalk had become his best friend and a constant source of joy and wonder. Every day brought something new. Galeta learned to open her cage door and developed a love for popcorn during movie nights. Their stories spread across the internet, inspiring people worldwide. Many admired Jack's dedication to caring for such an unusual pet. Some even said they wanted their own pocket-sized flying squirrel. Jack received hundreds of messages from people saying his story had changed their perspective on human-animal relationships. He often thought about the day he found Galeta. He was grateful to have been in the right place at the right time. By choosing to save that tiny creature, he had gained an extraordinary friend and a new outlook on life. Every time Galeta fell asleep on his chest, Jack's heart overflowed with love and gratitude. Today, Galeta lives a happy life with her human dad. She has everything a flying squirrel could need, a spacious cage to glide in, plenty of toys, and most importantly, Jack's love and care. Jack even started studying veterinary science to take better care of his unique pet. He never ceases to be amazed at how such a tiny creature brought so much happiness into his life. Every morning, when he wakes up and sees Galeta sleeping peacefully in her little nest, Jack smiles, knowing his life is so much richer thanks to this little miracle. Sometimes fate brings us small creatures that change our lives in ways we never imagined. Galeta, so fragile at first, taught Jack the value of kindness and caring for those in need, even when the world doubts their potential. Never underestimate the power of a small act of kindness. It can change a life, and maybe even your own.